I think might as well just get started because I think the other people will probably show up at some point. There's no point in waiting. So you stop by for a specific item, I suppose, right?
Yep.
Which one?
Whichever has CMS.
Whatever has
CMS, like one of the last ones. Second from the last.
There we go. This one, sign CMS.
Oh, I see. It's in the middle.
There are cases of the oh.
He wants to use key.
Huh?
He wants to use a private key for the keyboard.
Idea. What else is on this side? Hey Carol, how's it going? What?
You don't have the room yet?
You don't have the room yet because last week I did not do anything.
And then did you see what time the invitation to this one came?
Yeah, I noticed. I was like, yeah, 2 hours.
First. Stop playing guys. It was an hour before. It's all good. CMS signer. So what else we have?
Are we online?
Yeah, we already live.
Oh.
CMS signer. So there's a constructor you want to add.
Mm-hmm.
And you have two makes sense. And then you just ask them what for the key.
Which maybe should be named private key just to hint. And then does anybody care if it's a default, which would look like one of the existing constructor, or just make it a proper overload? I mean, it's proper overload anyway.
Well, there's no overload of the existing one, right?
Okay. So I can't think of a reason why we would make the last thing be an optional transfer, but I'm just playing devil's advocate.
So you're not trying to, there's no property that would expose it afterwards, right? So what actually happens with the thing you pass in?
It's used.
But does it get stored in the field, or?
Yes.
So why don't we expose it then?
Yes. We don't care. You create it to pass it into sign, and then the object's gone.
It just seems to be weird that everything else is like exposed afterwards, but it's not. But yeah.
You can add it. It's easy enough to add a public read-only property than it is a private field. Of course, now we need to name the property.
What's your name again?
ArcMJS.
Why is it not showing? This is great. Now you type this and it no longer shows up because that will be helpful. So you have to literally know what we use of this right here. So just anything else? Otherwise, that's it. Everybody seems to shake their head, so I take that as a just do it. Ooh.
Come up with a name for the public property.
Yeah, exactly what the argument name, the parameter name is.
Fair enough.
Anything else would be weird.
We'll just document it. It's only is said if you give us one. Okay.
Absolutely, and then let's just walk the other one to the milestone 2.2 because they seem to be at least somewhat planned.
Yeah, I don't think that people really, started doing the 2.2 versus future.
Still reward the effort. I still reward the effort.
All right.
Sorting key, or priority key.
think Android is on the call too, right?
Who?
Android is on the call, yeah.
Yeah. You want to talk to that one? Because since you filed it, you probably have more context on it.
Hello.
Hey, yep, we hear you. Just speak your mind.
Yeah, should I like briefly describe the API?
Yeah.
We use FileSystem.Watcher to monitor any changes to a particular file system or like particular path that a user has supplied. And currently, like we have like a filter property which help us to like filter the files in the file system to look through. Like for example, if we just wanna take a look at .txt file or .csv file, we can just add a filter for set the filter property to do that. But if we want to look like if we want to specify more than one filter, like if we want to look for two extension or some other combination of regular expression, we are currently not able to do it. So what I like we can like go through and work around this issue in two ways. Either like in the event handler itself, we manually do that in the event handler thing, or we can like set up the multiple instances of FileSystem.Watcher and stitch them to the same event handlers.
Right.
So, but that's not optimal because the user still have to manually do it, and which defeats the purpose of having the filter property in the first place. So what I suggested was to that have a filter list where we can specify a like collection of regular expression which needs to be monitored, which needs to be monitored for while monitoring the file system.
So you say it's really just the Windows standard, whatever the matching thing is, right?
Yes. It's not regular expressions. It's not even the Windows standard. It's the simple matching with just the question marks and the asterisks.
So does the underlying API support that, or do we basically do this in our implementation just before we raise the user event handler?
So it was just changed. Like we have from the 2.1 stuff, we have our own matcher. Well, we did already actually for that, but now it's a non-allocating one. And I just made the change for the Windows side to FileSystem.Watcher to not allocate until it's gone past the filter. There's an open issue that's Android's working on for doing the Unix side as well.
Right.
So this is a particularly noisy thing for our partners like Build and VS.
Yeah, I guess
Watcher.
I get that, but what I'm trying to get at is that is the filter list a native concept of the underlying file watching API?
No.
It's just
no. But like we're getting back a buffer, and that allows us to walk through the buffer and not allocate a string that isn't going to be used or necessary.
Oh, I see. So if you have like a directory with thousands of different file extensions, you don't have to do crazy gymnastics to do the filtering later on in user code.
Correct, and that is explicitly a problem.
Right.
To give you one concrete scenario that I don't think Android knows about, but they have a whole bunch of problems with the Watcher. That Visual Studio does. One of which is that that buffer has to be pinned for the lifetime of the Watcher. So they were having problems. They were starting up so many Watchers that they were fragmenting the heap in VS. They changed that like 5 or 6 years ago to move like a shared Watcher up the stack of the directories.
Right.
And now they're running into a problem where they're getting so many events that it's actually choking the system as well because people's cache directories and stuff are showing up. Right. And we're allocating strings for everything, which is less than ideal. So this is part of a moving forward. There are other things that can be done, but this is a simple one. And there's also a prototype polling watcher, which is the different characteristics where we just look at the state of the file system on a regular basis, and that's something Christoph had come up with, and we have a community member working on that right now.
Right.
In Cortex Lab. but it already has this pattern, and we want to like get ahead of that so that they match.
So any reason we wouldn't call filter list just filters?
Or search patterns.
Anirudh, you can speak to it, but I prefer filters.
Yeah, like we can change anything. Like we were using I recently worked on an argument list property in System.Diagnostics.Process. So I just using the same convention there. We were using arguments and argument list. So that's why I changed. I don't have any preference for like using
In that
filters.
case, we basically use list because the problem is arguments. The regular pro was already taken by the string property, right? So in this case, we don't have that problem. It seems generally speaking,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
for collections, I would just use a plural for the most part. But I mean, like Wes just asked whether we should use
Everywhere else in this file system, we have
Patterns.
basically a search pattern or something like that.
yeah.
It's already, the existing one is filter.
Yeah.
Or there's already something on file system Watcher for filter. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
And sadly, there's also another filter.
Notify.
as well.
Yeah.
Notify filter.
Yeah.
Wildcard filters? Because I see some are star.pdb and others are just .exe. Like,
Well, I think that was a mistype.
Yes. Yeah. That was.
They should be started.
But like, yeah, you could look for just .exe, but you wouldn't really get any results.
yeah, okay. So I was wondering whether it's wildcard or if it's just extension based. So.
No, it's just the standard wildcard that you would get for the enumeration stuff.
It's standard wildcard. It's not regular expression wildcard, right?
Yes, and to be super specific, because we had our own implementation or copy of the matching algorithm, which is the one I then moved into file system. I specifically made sure that this one is the simple matcher.
Okay.
So it doesn't have any of the weird DOS matching behaviors. It's just question marks as one character. It's the simple matcher. We may expose the more complicated one later, but I doubt anybody would really want it.
And I suspect we're doing all the filtering ourselves, correct? The OS
Correct.
is doing nothing. So we're just basically getting all notifications from the OS and then filtering it.
Correct. The OS does have, no, they don't actually, or do they? They don't have filtering for file names, but I think they might have filtering for different types of events. But I may be remembering that incorrectly. We do filter that too, and so that may just be they have no filters. But in any case, there's the Unix stuff to think about as well. So, which also pass stuff in a buffer. At least the normal Unix Macs is different. The Mac OS is a little different as well.
So I mean, I think it was already in the feedback that I think Jeremy you provided. Is there any reason why the property needs to be settable? I don't think it should be.
I don't think so either, particularly because Anirudh wanted to derive from collection, I believe, was his plan, so that he could change things that are added as they're put in.
Yeah.
So that would make setting impossible.
Setting, because I mean you can still make it work, right? When you set it, you just unsubscribe from the old guys or whatever. But like it's like if you want to derive, then you're kind of screwing yourself, yes, because there's no way you can enforce a particular type at that point. So yeah, I would not make it settable. I would just make it read only. That's it.
And like my other suggestion was to add a constructor overload to it.
Yeah, like for adding the constructor now makes sense. Like if the property is not settable, then we will have to add everything. Then the constructor will be helpful. But
on top of that, you'd have to do some gymnastics there.
Yeah, a lot of them.
You'd have to have the conditions in there for the. You don't want to instantiate one of those things and then throw it away because somebody sets it as well.
Yeah. Like I had it in the code, but yeah, it's really messy for the setter property. But like when the constructor will be a breaking change, like I tried adding IEnumerable too, like as you suggested in the comment, but still the null call was ambiguous.
Yeah, it's a problem with stuff.
Like that's the reason that I moved to the setter earlier. I was it was just a read-only property.
Because our current constructors are empty, string, and string string.
Yeah.
So you're doing these things for our partners like VS and company, but there's no way that VS is ever going to get this change. Because we're not going to add it.
It's not true, because like there's a sidecar thing that we're discussing with them to basically provide a Microsoft file system internal thing as a temporary thing for the next VS.
Do we think that our implementation is going to really be much better than them doing the filtering themselves?
Oh yeah.
Why do you
Allocations.
underneath, did we change FileSystem.Watcher that much?
What's that?
Did we change FileSystem.Watcher to do less allocations?
Yeah.
It's using span underneath right now?
Yeah, well, I just said the Windows one is. The Unix one just needs to be finished, but I just changed the Windows one last week.
Right, so even if VS attempted to take this, they would also have to take a dependency on the slow span.
Correct, but the allocations are what's killing them. So it would be, because it's not just this thing, but there's the enumeration one as well.
Okay, so I have some worries about whether or not VS can really successfully take a dependency on any of this. But barring that, I don't have an issue.
Yeah, the time frame as to when they can is certainly, still questionable. There is a plan that or a possibility that they may get some of these things through the mechanism I mentioned for the next version. But it may end up being 2 versions if that doesn't fly the way we expect it to. But still, other people can use it for sure.
So, regarding the constructor, so the problem is with now that it's ambiguous, right? It seems like there's these amount of people that used to overload the text to strings, at least on .NET Framework. The question is, do we care? And then even if we do, even if we don't, then what do we do with in the implementation when we try to construct the filters? Because in the end of the day, collection of T doesn't have an add range. So even if we give you the IEnumable overload, it's not that you can do substantially better, I guess, right? You just do a normal for loop and then you just add the items to the
Sure, and I guess that's a rational question. It's just we don't have an add range, do we?
No, it's not a collection of T. It is weird though, because the collection of T, I think there was another item at some point where somebody talked about that, adding that ability. I mean, did we actually end up doing it? Maybe we did it on core.
I don't think we've had an add range.
No, we don't have an add range in the collection of T. I checked that.
Yeah, I don't think there is one. And it is very weird because there
may be a constructor that allows you to pass in a list, but
I think that's actually true. Yeah.
So you can basically pass in an array or whatever, some kind of list that you initialized.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we can do is we can look through the rest of this and the options and things that we're looking at adding for the polling watcher. Then we can just table adding a constructor until we have more arguments. It's possible we might want to change the matching type or allow you to specify explicitly specify the casing matching. Matter of fact, that's probably one that we will add, because right now you cannot. You're stuck with the default.
What can you change? The filtering type? What did you say? The notify filter, or which one?
Changing what type of match type. We only have the 2, right? But the more useful one is matching is whether or not it's case sensitive or not.
I see.
And that one we probably would want to add. It's really relatively trivial to do, and one can see people really caring.
That makes sense.
So I'd be happy with just tabling that one and for
a constructor. We would add one with more arguments later.
Yeah.
I guess that will be a separate work item, right?
Yeah.
Alright, so then this looks good. Let's do this.
There is one more point about using how to interpret the filter property once the filter list is there. Like Dan was mentioning, like whether we should return the 0th element or just set return an exception if there are more than one filters.
I would say I would not do that. I would say you can either decide to. I mean, in this case, it seems like you can round trip this perfectly, right? If somebody sets the filter, you clear the filters and you set the filters to the one item. And if somebody adds more than one filter, you just clear the filters property.
So we should just return the first filter if somebody has added more than one filters?
I
think that
we even need to make a list? Why can't we just do sort of like a delimited thing that's already there on the filter string? That's a string property right now. You can do start.pdb semicolon.
If you get really long ones, we'd have to like split it.
Well, it will, but you can split it behind the scenes and however you want efficiently. But do we need to expose two sort of parallels? A second one here. There's a lot of places where we.
Well, yeah, actually, we probably would because every single character is valid in Unix, outside of the null character. So it would be really kind of hard to delimit it.
Yeah, I mean, like it's true though. Like following Wes's line of thinking, if you look at the file dialog, for example, like the filter property there is a string, and it's basically pipe delimited, right? It has this crazy thing where you have the first item is the extension. Sorry, the first item is the description that you see in the dialog, and the second one is the actual list of extensions. I think they're like semicolon delimited or something, but then the list itself is pipe delimited. I mean, like there is some prior art in that, although I always cringe with things like that because it's kind of like a mini DSL that is embedded because we were too lazy to give you a collection.
Well, the collection items are just simple strings, though, so there's no extra data you need associated with them.
Well, except for the part as Jeremy said, when you want to search for files, like find some escaping rules and
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that the filter algorithm takes escaping. So if you like, there's no character available to us to use. So
I mean, there's always easy delimiting schemes. Double pipe is pipe, things like that.
You can also just embed nulls.
Well, that's the way Windows does it. List of strings terminated by 2 nulls.
Multi-SD.
Yep. Generally speaking, this API is really tolerant. It allows you to set things to null and whatever else. So like, I'm totally fine with like the one weird case being that if you have filter set and you get filter, you get the 0th element. Outside of that, I think what Imo suggested makes sense is that if you actually set filter and you have filters, is that your collection becomes a 1 item. You don't set the 0th. You really have to try hard to like make your code not right.
I just don't like the fact that we're going to have 2 properties and people aren't going to necessarily know about use one or the other, essentially.
I understand that. If we had something,
Right.
both of those minor concerns, like if we had a rational delimiter that we could use in this case, I'd be less disinclined to have it, and the other one is like really trying to cut the number of allocations down. So if you build a really ridiculously long list, we're going to split it all up and then allocate, which is entirely possible.
We're allocating anyways if you put a filter list in there. Somebody's allocating.
Well, we're not allocating new strings. That's the thing we'd have to do.
Somebody is when they're putting it in the list.
Yeah,
Sure, but they're doing it once as opposed to us doing it a second time.
Oh, I suspect that we would only ever allocate them again once if they reset the filters.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
So it could still be like 20, 30, 40 of these things.
megabyte of memory.
Yeah.
There's no
Hopefully we
method that starts the watching process, right? Like it's immediately watching, right?
No, it is. I think it's
there's
begin-
enable
raising events.
Yeah.
Enable raising events does it.
But do you have to call this every time, or is it already on?
No, it's not on until you hit enable raising events.
Then maybe we could actually do what we did on process and just say if both are set, we roll.
And I thought about that, but like, given how tolerant this API is of getting nulls and other things, it seemed a little odd to get very aggressive.
Well, I mean, like the one problem that you have is that you have these inconsistencies, right, which may be hard to reason about. But yeah, I mean, I don't think people will actually pass this guy around and will query the property directly, so maybe it doesn't matter that much.
That's my expectation too. I don't like, while I can see somebody like taking arguments for starting a process and like manipulating it all the way through, I think it's much, much rarer for like people to be passing around a file system watcher.
Yeah, it just makes me a little bit cringy, Wes. Like it seems a bit ugly. But yeah, I guess it is what it is.
And if we like are clearing the list, should we keep the first element as like the star wildcat character star, or we should just clear the whole list and set it to null? Like
that's an implement, like as it stands right now. If you set the filter to null, we set it to actually star.
Yeah.
So it should never be null. You should always have either star or whatever they specified as the first item.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, I just would never change the value you assign the property. That seems very weird. If I set a property to null and then I immediately read it back and it's now asterisk, that seems kind of weird.
Yeah, that's the way it already is, which is...
Like nothing like idempotent behavior for a sign.
Setting it
Yeah.
is different than using the return value or using the value in a pass-through expression.
I guess if that's already the behavior, then so be it. But like, yeah.
Time to get out the time machine again.
Yes, I blame Christoph just in case. All right. And I think we're done with this one. System.Diagnostics.Activity.Current. Oh my god.
LINQ setter. So the bottom line is that especially when in ASP.NET, when you have threads between managed and native, the current APIs that we have don't allow you to switch the context or the activity. So this is kind of like for that, allow the setter that we didn't allow before. We had some start and end, and Vance commented down there that ideally he would like to have it like as a separate rare API, but then he convinced himself that having a setter is not that bad. It's not controversial.
I mean, set current when you have a current seems really weird.
could hide under different method. But the capability to set the current is valuable.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in API. If there's a consensus from the teacher on a CD. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with an API that with a property that is settable. I mean, what's the current design for current? Like, is that supposed to be thread safe?
It's thread local, so
setting is also
they say local actually. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess that's what I thought. So, okay, that seems fine.
Well, that's actually an interesting question.
Why?
But you cannot raise.
No, because if any of the methods read it more than once, they can now shear across the setter. So anything that ever reads this needs to make sure that it's only reading it once inside any method.
Right.
Because so I don't know what the API is, but if activity has like an instance method that runs off of current, if the top half of the method reads one current and then the bottom half reads a second, that was actually not thread safe. And that means a static violated the thread safety rule.
Sure, but why would they change between those calls? The idea is that it does not, right? You know.
Oh, because it's thread local. Okay,
Yeah.
so they would have had to change it. All right, never mind. I guess if they call it a callback and the callback changed it, but now we're getting here.
Yeah, like if someone does stupid things, like
I'm just like, it's a thing that they could have before when it wasn't settable. That wouldn't have been a thing that could have gone wrong.
Yeah.
But I guess it's less of a problem. So.
Yeah, we will give people gun, but
Yeah.
I think we gave them enough guns in our VCL. So.
Yeah, I was thinking through static assignment, thread safety.
We don't know people guns. We just give them rope. That's all we do.
All right.
Right. So now Mastodon.
Can you pick at the bottom enumerator concurrent dictionary from Stephen Dove? That seems fairly simple. No, actually second from the top. I apologize. Yeah, he's not online, but he's around. I think he has some.
Yep.
He has a training, so that's.
How to be on a Skype call. Professional Skype attendance.
Sorry to fly. I mean,
Sure. I think we did these things in the past easily.
Oh, that's ugly though. Oh.
Want to break APIs.
wild state send them for each. I'm amused that he made it match the enumerator pattern and didn't use it in for each.
Well, because he can't.
Yeah.
Oh.
Has to implement or does it have to actually just match the pattern?
You cannot enumerate an enumerator. You have to. You can only.
Oh, you can enumerate an enumerable.
Yes.
Yes.
Because the compiler emits the call. So that's the problem with this API proposal, is that that's the only way you can use the API. There is no for each, which makes it extremely ugly.
Well, so you can for each. So the enumerable pattern. Oh no, because the enumerable pattern is it will call a get enumerator that has a return type that has a current and move next.
Right. I think the only thing we could do is talk to this compiler guys and ask them to change the rules for the compiler, which they will probably not, because they already have to match like 7 or 8 different shapes of enumerable, and so that's already complicated as hell. But like you could imagine a world where, you know, if there's a method called get value enumerator or something, that they would prefer that over get enumerator or something.
So the only way that we can do it is if there was a property that returned a new struct value that wrapped this, that had a get enumerator that returned the enumerator.
Right.
So you can do it with a second additional type.
Oh, you're saying the compiler could emit that code here?
Like if they added if we added a property on concurrent dictionary called like value enumerable.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That just returned a numerator of this. Yep. Then you can now for each value enumerable.
Would even be a method, right?
Sure. I mean, it just needs to be a callable thing that returns value or the new inner enumerator. No, because it would need to return a new struct that then can return the enumerator.
Yes, you would have another struct that would, all it had to have a get enumerator method that would return that enumerator.
Yeah. So you would have a concurrent dictionary, a key to value, enumerable, and enumerator.
A bit heavy-handed, but yeah.
If we cared about making for each work, that would be what we would do.
And in theory, you can do it later.
There you go.
Yeah.
Or I'm not getting email.
Alright. See what they're saying, but I have no understanding right now. And if that's what we have to do, so be it. I mean, on this one collection type, I don't think it matters that much, but it feels very unfortunate we go on that path.
From third from the top. Some of this. It seems not controversial as well.
This one here.
The Regex is actually right.
Thanks for taking a look at it because I have no idea what this looks like today.
Should you chime in?
Do something to improve APS of that, it seems to be working again, mostly.
Well,
Before it was like,
there's always this thing where it's like, I think it depends on how many people are hitting it. I think that's where.
You let Emo go to it first, and he warmed it up. Of course, it's not even answering for me. So.
What's what? Are these flags really on the method?
Yeah. Method def.
Oh, I thought they were on the. What's the name for this?
Well, actually, no, you're right.
The property and
Yeah, they're on the property definition.
There's point to the methods, but I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we have built a mapping.
It's
back.
not on method def, but it's associated with the method def.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's only one. I looked at the spec.
Are you sure it's not?
Well, because it looks like reflection has method semantics attributes. So.
That's in system reflection meta.
Yeah, so I mean that means that this attribute is theoretically applied to something. And since it says it's adder, getter, raiser, remover, setter, or other, that
Property attributes has default none, reserved 2, reserved 3, reserved 4, reserved mask, special name, and one has special name. That's like perfect API.
does suggest that it says that the get underscore foo knows that it is a getter.
That's what I thought I had this before. That's what I thought. So it's on the property definition. There's a property accessors thing which gives you essentially getter.
That's the forward ref, so that's from the property. What method is the implementation of get? And then apparently the semantics is on the method. There's an attribute that says I am a get, but doesn't necessarily.
I thought that a method could actually potentially serve multiple.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Properties.
That's why I finally created this one.
I don't think most languages do it, but I thought you could do it in IR. In theory, you wouldn't be a getter and a setter, but you could, in theory, be an adder, getter, or possibly multiple combinations. Or a getter from multiple properties, potentially.
So like so the way it works in IL, right? You have the method definitions, and then you have the property definitions, right? And those are effectively, there's another table in between that basically gives you the accessors, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought, because of this mapping, you basically have an end-to-end mapping between the properties and the events, right? So in theory, metadata would allow you to say there's one method, and it's serving like these two properties over here because they're just associated with each other. So I don't think the actual role, whether it's a getter or a setter, is actually on the property, on the method. I think it's on the accessors themselves.
Interesting.
This is defined
It's been years.
335.
Exactly. What to do? It's not that.
Yeah, off of Google.
Huh?
No, the Google links are on a 404 off of ECMA International. Did ECMA International pull 335?
What? ECMA's
No, ECMA's offline.
Yeah, ECMA's offline. Okay. So, okay.
Hello and welcome to ECMA International Org. This site is temporarily inaccessible. That's me translating from French.
Speak French.
I speak bonjour and bienvenue.
Alright, so then let's look at Regex bit options.
Let's skip that one. It's a little long one. Can we do the zip?
The zip?
Yep. That's second from the bottom.
I like the way you think, but
Basically, I think a shortcut to create tuples from two lists or two enumerables, call it that way. We already have existing zip thingy.
oh my god,
That
I love that.
transfers you grab.
I love that. It's already, yeah, perfect. Take it.
And we need on enumerable and variable. They had the unzip thing discussion and then they scoped it to just zip.
I was about to say, I don't care what unzip. I never used unzip ever in my life, I think. Good, looks good.
Gonna click somewhere.
Yeah, I guess. Give me more like those.
Yeah, sorry, that was the last one. Then the regex is probably with the read only span thingies.
Alright.
Oh, you mean this one? I don't look at this one. Okay.
This one seems easy, no?
I don't know. Skip it, but
Victor, you're online, right?
Yeah.
oh,
What does it do?
magic.
Yeah, if you look into the examples, you see that if you pass the option to it, it removes the empty strings from it.
No, so we already have the string one, but we don't. So we already have split, but we don't have regex split options. Is that it?
Exactly. Yeah.
But what does it do? Like, isn't it just the same as string split at that point?
So the current behavior is in the table below the output column. For example, when you split 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you will get multiple results because if there's nothing on the left and nothing on the right which it can split, then it just appends and prepends an empty string to it. And the expected behavior is usually that you just get the element back if there's no delimiter.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's an instance method. So you're basically constructing a regex of a pattern, and then you say, here's the input, which could be, okay, the pattern could be \d plus, in which case you would get, I see, now I get it.
Well, I don't. Like, why the second line, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, does output those empty strings on each side? That just doesn't make much sense. Oh, it is like before. Oh, it matches this. The regular expression gives you what's before, what's after. Is that the trick? Yeah.
Wow. No, you're right. Why does \d plus give you empty strings at the beginning and the end? That makes no sense.
Because it matches something and gives you what's before and what's after. If it has
Exactly. Yeah.
the same the whole string, then it's kind of crappy behavior that it gives you the empty string at the beginning, empty string at the end.
But
Should we treat it as a bug and fix it? Actually?
\d plus can't match the empty string. That's like plus means
No,
there
no,
must be
it doesn't match, but it matches the entire string,
Yeah.
and then gives you an implementation. It's like, oh, give me whatever was before the match and after the match. The fact that it happens nothing, which means empty string, it just returns that, which is crappy.
Oh, I see.
So you're saying effectively, the behavior currently is we will return multiple groups,
Always.
but we will always include one for whatever was before and one whatever was after the pattern, and that can still be empty strings.
Yes. That's the behavior, the current one. And it's similar to string split, because string split also has the overload with the option.
You have the option to basically exclude empty strings.
So what happens if it matches multiples?
String split does.
It will return those as individuals.
Well, because I'm
In string split,
so looking at just this one example,
the default behavior makes more sense.
the problem is on the
Most of the time you don't want the empty strings.
on the top row, you can tell that you matched in the middle,
Right?
but then you can't tell the bottom two apart. So if you call split and you get back two things, you don't know if you had a prefix or a suffix.
Fair enough.
In a lot of cases, you probably don't care. If you're just trying to
Well,
split.
you at least want the match, and which one do you pick? Like,
So,
the current implementation always take index 1, and it's always the match, right?
So what I understand is like, why do you say you can't take those apart?
Well, I'm just I guess I don't understand the use case of the API, but if split right now always gives back three things, then the match is the middle.
And it will not be just three, right? It will be
Not just three things. The three things are just in this example. You can also get 5, 10, or whatever. So you get the amount of splits by the delimiter.
Right, but is it always every other one was your match and every other one was an infix?
So Victor, what does that do? That will give you ABC 1, 2, 3, DEF 4, 6, 1, and then it does this, right?
No, not at the beginning.
Not the beginning.
With /d plus, the ABC is the prefix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so every other one was your match and every other one was not.
Yeah.
And so this is useful. If you get rid of the empty string, you don't know if you were missing
Which
a
one is
prefix.
match? Is it the first? Is it the 0 index or is it the 1 index?
I mean, like if
Yeah.
people want to use it and they want to call it and they think they can extract semantic information, I guess that's fine. I'm just looking at it. Once you can't tell what your data is, I don't know that it's useful.
Who asked for that, Victor?
Me.
How would you use it?
It's like, I would say it's the same like string split. I wouldn't divide the data just by the index, but I would just use the overload if I don't want to care about the empty entries. If I just want results without empty strings, I would use it.
I mean, again, like if somebody opts into it, I looking at that table, this tells me that I would never understand how to use this API.
Why not?
Well, I think you're confusing two things. Basically, so what ends up happening is, think of the regex. In this case, it was this one, right? So basically, what you're saying is, these guys here are logically your separator, right?
Yeah.
So replace this with a comma.
Yep.
Yeah, but
And now you call it
Then
string
it makes
split.
sense.
the
So you
problem
don't care about this thing at all, right?
Well, but the problem is the commas are semantic elements in the array. So what I care about is the things that aren't the commas, but I don't know which ones aren't the commas.
Oh, because we still. Oh, I think you're right. Because basically what you really would like to get then is this, right?
Yeah.
That I understand.
Yep.
I think that makes sense.
Having the ones in there, I agree, is a little weird. But
And so the way it would work right now is that effectively it's every other item, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All
So
the
if
all
you
the
care
even
about
ones.
only the matches, or if you care about only the not matches,
Yes.
you
it seems like another good option for the regex split options. It says exclude the things my delimited strings. The things that match my delimiter, essentially.
So
Yeah.
it makes sense because what you're gonna do, for example, let's say you have like two delimiters, comma and semicolon. So you create a regex, one of those, and you don't care about like, hey, like in string split, like if it was at the beginning or at the end, it will like empty strings.
I mean,
It's still, all those cases make sense.
as long if we think it's semantically valid, just looking
Yep.
at that table, it says.
One more thing which is important is if you don't use the brackets, so if you don't use a capture group for the delimiter, you won't get the result you won't get the result.
I say if you don't use the parentheses, you don't get the delimited pieces. Okay.
Yeah. So if you just use \d plus, you won't get the numbers at all.
Okay.
So you get only the prefix and suffix?
And you'll get the empty.
Not just the prefix and suffix. Yeah, the prefix and suffix of each split. Yeah.
And is it okay if it returns empty array in that case? Is that how split works as well? Probably has to. string split, I mean.
Error return
Because if you have only comma, and you split on comma, and you say like, you know, don't go to doing empty string, then you're not going to get anything at all. Empty array, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
What with this new option you would get if with today's API you get an empty string.
But string.split. If you go string.split against the empty string and tell it to split on commas and ignore empty, do you get back null? Or the null array, the empty array, or an array with the empty string?
And what if you have just one comma in there?
I seem to get an empty array back.
What if you have just one comma in there? That's actually interesting. And you say
Yeah.
split the empty strings.
Yeah, I don't know. Like those are.
Yeah, so those are good corner cases to cover and make sure that you're consistent with the string split sample.
Even if we think whatever string split does is stupid, because then you can normalize your patterns.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess if the normal use case is not to actually.
You get new string 0, you get an empty string. Right.
You get new string 0?
Yeah. That's what you get. I'm looking at the code.
Yeah.
String 0.
So the string sub 0.
The allocated empty array.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of the cached empty.
Oh, that's right.
Right. So then just fix that proposal to something that makes sense, and then you can do this again.
Just.
All right. I think we're out of time now, and I think we looked at a bunch of stuff actually. So it was fairly productive. Alrighty. Thanks, guys online.